Hello, for the 14th Sunday in Ordinary Time, using all three readings a little bit. Zechariah, Romans, and Matthew 11. A little bit. I read all these readings earlier this week and I didn't get a whole lot out of them. But then I said, well, what is the gospel trying to say? What is that middle reading? And Zechariah. Well, the little bit that I got this week in the readings, I hope you might even read them deeper than me or get more out than it seemed that I have. But it starts with the prophet Zechariah in the 9th chapter. It's the second part. And as Zechariah is sort of looking toward the coming of the Messiah, the Prince of Peace, or the real king, not some of these local kings or present kings that he experienced, but the real king, the Christ, the Messiah. And when this one's coming, he's going to be different. He says this is going to be a just Savior. This is going to be one of meek and humble of heart. And this is going to be one riding on an ass. Does that sound familiar? We use it every Palm Sunday. This whole idea of the Messiah coming into Jerusalem riding on a donkey. And this is 500 years before Christ. The prophet foretells or says, this is what's going to happen, folks. Well, Jesus does come 500 years later. And when Jesus comes, he is, we believe, the real stuff, the real king. But quite a different than the other kings, and quite different between the world's outlook of the great leader. And he does this for 30 some years. He preaches what he says the Father, his Father, has taught him to preach, to give the message. But not only to give the message, but to live the message. And so he did. 30 some years. And then poof, he goes off. Well, the Spirit comes in the church, Pentecost Sunday, and they try to comprehend all of this stuff. The Old Testament prophets, the Old Testament kings. And what did Jesus say about now and the second coming? Great men, the apostles, the early church. Another great man, Paul, Saul. He got a great insight to this, not exactly the way the prophets, but in that vision that he had on the way to Damascus. And that vision, well, not just the vision itself, but the way Paul looked at it was, you just can't live according to the world and the insights of the world and worldly wisdom, worldly learning. It's something different than that. In the gospel, he says, and Jesus presents this and says, not the learned people, but the children, like little children having faith and trust in mom and dad. And that's what Paul preached, that you can't do it according to the world. But the word Paul used for the world, the way it is, and the way it seemingly will always be, that's living according to the flesh. So when the prophet Zechariah talks about the world learned and clever and kings and so forth, he talks about there's going to be this he's going to do away with the chariots. He's going to do away with the horses. Going to do away with the bows and arrows. Get that? Get rid of the chariots were vehicles of war. Get away with the horses, and they were animals of war. to overpower all those infantry soldiers and run right through them. And he was going to get rid of the bows and arrows, where you just shoot the other guy right through the heart. Oh, but we don't have those things today. No, we have tanks. We have pistols and we have rifles and we have atomic bombs, nuclear warfare. 2,000 years since Jesus Christ said this and showed this how to live. Over 2,000 years since Paul is say, don't live by flesh. Don't live by world standards. Saul says, live by the Spirit. And the Spirit is the message of Jesus. And the Spirit is forgiveness and love and dignity and respect and peace. This Jesus said, if you live the way I'm telling you, or the way I'm living, you will live at peace. And you're called to be at peace. And so is the world. Well, that's nice talk, flesh and spirit, and chariots and tanks and the world. But when will this all come? Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. I keep on asking, when? Why not now? I don't get a good answer on that one. I guess I'm like everybody else. I'm called just be like a little child. Listen to what I'm telling you and trust me. Isn't that what Jesus is saying in the gospel? That the whole world way of living is not what's cracked up to be or to be followed blindly and only. There's much more. There's deeper reality, and that is that peace, that love, the dignity of the other person. And that's the way it is only going to happen. And it'll happen in the kingdom of God. But he doesn't tell us when. And that's one of my problems, and I think most people's problems. Why doesn't it happen now, immediately? But it doesn't. But a child, probably has a lot of those same feelings. When will Santa Claus come? But the child trusts, mom and dad will take care of me. It'll be okay. I love my parents. It'll be okay. And it'll come. That's the bottom line of our faith, but it just seems to be, well, yeah, they had some of that faith way back time of Zechariah. They had some of that faith immediately after Christ went back to heaven that Jesus was going to come and it's going to be all perfect. We have lived through 2,000 years of history and it hasn't been totally perfect yet, has it? Trust me. The Father has kept the secret hidden from the learned and the clever and the wise and revealed it to like little children. Well, trust me. Trust me. This pandemic that we're experiencing, it'll end. Why doesn't it end now? Should I just deny it? That it is in here? It's really bad? Should I live through it, trusting that it will end? It'll end. This, in the nature of things, in the nature of all Jesus Christ's message is something like that. But it deals with thousands and thousands upon years, apparently. So I'm sorry, I'm frustrated because I don't know the answer. I'm frustrated because I don't know why we have this pandemic. I'm frustrated because the world is screwed up. a mess. We need help. We need God. We need Jesus. And the bottom line is, we have him, but in due time it will be fulfilled. Due time. Due time certainly seems like a long time. And due time is a long time. Didn't get too much out of the reading, but if you could ever hack that or handle that, you'd be much better off. And so would many other people. Have a good day. Have a good 4th of July weekend.